Welcome back to the Nasty Work Podcast. I am Nia Senior, as always, with my amazing co host, Coach Slaw. And today we're going to talk about the tournament tizzy. To start it off, we're just going to go ahead and get into what y'all want to talk about, the mess of it all. Y'all so messy. We're going to call it the scuffle. It happened at the SEC tournament. I was there, boots on the ground, child, between LSU and South Carolina. I'm going to just go ahead and say it is not what y'all thought it was. This was not the WWE SmackDown. It was not it really was none of that. It just was chippiness, a little push, a little shoulder. That really
A
was all
little
that it
show
was.
action.
Yeah, it didn't really give too much, but this is what happened. Long story short, I blame the refs. That's how I'm gonna start this off. The whole game, if you really go back and watch the entire game, it was a lot of, you know, competitiveness, animosity, chippiness just going on. When you got competitors
Mhm.
on the line for a major kind of game, it's gonna be that air, especially between two teams that are basically like rival teams, had a close game during the regular season. So it just gives that. It was already that. Then you have Angel Reese, the Bayou Barbie, Kamilla Cardoso banging in the paint against each other, pushing each other, talking shit to each other,
Real physical
pulling up,
play.
real physical, pulling up the hair, a lot of fouls and stuff that should have been checked by the refs. It just wasn't. And that just continued to go on, honestly, the entire game. So then we get to the fourth quarter, towards the end of the game. It's a close game, championship on the line, and all this animosity has been building up between both teams. And as they're walking off the court, how I saw it, Flau'jae bumps into Ashlyn Watkins. Ashlyn Watkins just turns around kind of to her. But before Ashlyn Watkins can even really do anything, Camilo Cardozo has sprinted in and pushed the hell out of Big Foe. Then it just was like a split second. People were hopping over the scores table. Then everybody's getting separated. People from the bench are running. And then it was just silent for like 20 minutes. What y'all saw on TV was the replay. In the replay, the people in the stadium, maybe we didn't know what was going on. I just went straight to the X, the Twitter, to try and see the replay, to try and see what's going on because I could only watch it one time with my real eyes, one time in real person. They weren't playing it on the
Right.
screen. The refs were silent. They weren't telling us like they're deliberating. They're trying to figure out who's getting ejected. Y'all knew who got fouls before we did. So yeah, it just was a whole lot of quickness and then silence for 20 minutes and then a
And
bunch of
it
booing.
did take a full 20 minutes because when I tell y'all they started showing the replays, I was like, Lord have mercy, Jesus. I went upstairs from where I was watching the game at. I went and I put some fries in the air fryer
Oh, not the
and I
air
cooked
fryer.
and I'm texting Dia while I'm watching the
Yeah.
updates. Because she's in person. I'm watching it from home. They're hyping up at home. They're like, Flau'jae brother, he just hopped out. And then the security guard took him away in cuffs. And this happened and that happened. And I'm like, Nia, what's going on? Nia,
And I'm
it
like,
looked like this happened. It looked like that happened. And Nia's like, girl, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just sitting here. I'm trying to talk to a little black man sitting next to me. I said, now what the I'm asking him. We done made friends, just trying to figure out what's going on. So I was like, well, he old child. He don't got no Twitter. Let me go to the Twitter and see what the people is saying. And that's
So
how I
from my perspective at home, um, I think Nia's right. I think the refs should have maybe interfered a little bit, but it's a championship game. You expect it to be physical. You don't want it to be so
right.
many fouls called that you're interfering with the game. And at that point,
Exactly.
they hadn't been calling them really in the second half. So
Nope.
now you want to start calling every tic tac thing in the last couple minutes. That wouldn't have gone over well either. So they had to keep that same energy. But from what I saw, I think Malaysia for Wiley was basically picking Flau'jae's pocket, right?
Yep.
And Flau'jae went to go foul her intentionally because otherwise it's an easy layup, especially for Full Wiley. She probably gonna go behind the back or through the legs or dunk it, something crazy.
Right. A highlight.
So now to your point about Flau'jae and Ashlyn Watkins has a tendency. I'm not saying it's, you know, necessarily a habit, but a tendency in other games I've seen to walk up on somebody right as they turn it around and, cut them off a little bit. And so that's what it looked like to me before Flau'jae, I think, tried to like move Ashlyn out the way or shove her out the way, whatever happened. So I think Kamilla caught the part where Flau'jae is moving Ashlyn and just sprinted into action, literally.
Yeah,
But then the bench is just emptied. And I saw Flau'jae hit the ground, but I didn't even realize what happened until after the replay came on. The replay happened. So it was really nuts. Everybody's speculating on who's going to get what charge for the fouls and who's going to get, suspended from the NCAA tournament and all of this stuff. The
exactly.
announcers were all wrong. They were all like, oh, everybody who was ejected can't play in the first round game. Then it
Like,
became like, no, just the players involved in the fight. And then it was like, okay, no, just
just
Kamilla.
Kamilla.
No, Kamilla in the first half. Girl, get your facts straight
Okay.
before y'all start yelling everything through the microphone. It's a mess.
They just want to rush to be
Um,
first to report something, and it doesn't ever, and
exactly.
it's not factual. So it's mad annoying. But yeah, how you saw everything that happened on the court first, I saw the second half first. Like the first thing that I really saw was Kamilla push Flau'jae and her hit the ground, and then I'm like,
Okay,
oh
that makes sense.
shit, like okay, no, it's about to go down. Like she said, "Hmm," and then everything escalated. But all right, we didn't give y'all the recap of like what actually happened. So now it's just like all of this discourse on Twitter about
Right.
not necessarily just on Twitter, but even on ESPN and just the
Who's a
interwebs.
bully? Who's not a bully?
Right. Who should have got ejected? Who shouldn't have got ejected? Is shoving really a fight? Is shoving just a part of basketball? Woo woo woo. Like it's just a whole lot of
Now,
people
if you
flapping their
get pushed
gums.
out the way in the act of play, that might be one thing. But when the play is dead and you have to come from the other end of the court to shove somebody with two hands and there's no basketball involved, I don't know how that's even a debate.
Exactly. However, I do think that I'm gonna just go ahead and say that I feel like the ejections were wrong. I feel like Flau'jae should have been ejected, not for even walking into Ashton Watkins. I think that's just chippiness. Like I didn't even think that was a big deal.
Hmm.
But the way that she fouled freaking Malaysia for Wiley was intentional and was excessive. Like she meant to foul, but it didn't have to be that level or veracity of the type of foul that she did. Like she basically toppled her over when she
So
tried to pick her pocket. I
did
was
she
just like,
not get charged with an intentional foul though?
she got charged with an intentional foul. She did. However,
You feel
she
like it
didn't
should
get
have been
ejected
flagrant?
for it. I feel like it should have been a flagrant because of how Malaysia fell, how hard she pushed her, and that's really what incited the whole scuffle between everybody, the animosity of that whole situation. So I'm just like, okay, she technically should have been ejected, in my opinion, because that instigated it. And she was involved with it. It wasn't like Camilla pushed her down and she didn't hop back up. Like it would have been one thing and she just laid out on the floor and was like not gonna do anything. But for Camilla to be the only one to be ejected, or not the only one to be ejected, but the only one to not be allowed
You
to
get a fighting
play,
foul? Mm-hmm.
a fighting foul I felt like was wrong because she wasn't the only one that was involved, especially because of the implications that it's going to have on the tournament. And I feel like they only didn't give it to Flau'jae because LSU was already down Poa after getting hurt the day prior, and they only play 5 people. So if Flau'jae can't play, then they really only have 4 players. So it's like, what are they supposed to do for the tournament kind of thing, first round? And so I feel like it was kind of strategic in that way. And I'm not saying that I don't think the team should have been able to play, so I get why they did it. But at the same time, I'm like, she was involved in the
Yeah, I
fight
hear what you're
technically.
saying. I think this is why rules and technicalities and perspectives are different because I like what you're saying about what you saw as far as Flau'jae's intentional foul because from what I was looking at, I didn't think it was all that. Like when she went after Malaysia like
Mm,
that because I think she was selling it and going after Malaysia because she knew she got ripped and that was going to be an easy layup. They're already down and they got to prevent them from pulling away. And I didn't think it was all that because Malaysia immediately walked away, Flau'jae immediately walked away. And then when you see Ashley and Flau'jae, then
Mm,
something happened. So maybe if the refs had intervened with Ashley or had the opportunity to intervene with Ashley and Flau'jae, it wouldn't have gotten to that level. But it had already, because of the way
right.
the game and the emotions were running high, escalated before that point, and I think it just didn't really even give any opportunity for that because I think the refs were already trying to get in between Ashlyn and Flau'jae before Kamilla got there to shove
Exactly.
Flau'jae. And so I think the distinction then, and it's a lot of semantics around the intentional foul and the fighting foul, is because the play was 100% dead when Kamilla did that.
Right. Exactly.
And she was not involved in the play to any of the contact in the first place. So she has to get a harsher penalty than the person who got shoved, even if that person was originally. And I think the refs, their attention is already on that now. It's like they've
Yeah.
forgotten what
What happened on the court, like
happened
in the play.
even on the court in the actual basketball play because they're trying to prevent something really bad from happening
Exactly. Yeah.
now. So I don't give refs grace often, but I do kind of in this situation because I was confused and I could see all angles. So
Right.
I can only imagine if you're right there standing one way, one direction, turning the other way, have to go back in the slow mo, the replay, and all of that stuff. What could have happened? And you might be right though. Like, do you let that game finish? Five players from each team, 4 and 5,
Right.
5 and 6. Like, what happened? Like, at some point, they would have never seen the light of they would have never seen the light of day again had they not had at least 5 players on that court for LSU.
Exactly. Yeah. That's how, like, I felt like it was strategic in that way. I mean, I'm not completely upset about it. More so, what I'm upset about is just like the additional rhetoric that's going around Kamilla, trying to make it seem as though this is gonna hurt her draft stock, or this is like she's this angry person, or just
Yeah,
trying to villainize her more
the
than the
dog
situation called
whistles.
for. Yeah, it's just like
Hmm.
it's really the Dawn Staley effect, unfortunately. Like, they are always going to talk about Dawn's players, even if they're quiet, even if they're respectful, no matter what. And in this instance, she definitely did act out of term. She definitely did push someone. And so, not condoning that, but to say that her draft stock is lowered because of this, that she's a villain type of person because of this, no, she's not. Like, everybody has had a bad moment. And I just don't like that rhetoric around her, especially she's still a young woman. Like, 21, 22, like everybody's still learning. These are still college kids. So I think that there was a mistake made. I think she'll definitely learn from it. But I don't think that she's a bad person. I don't think that she's a villain. I don't think that it needs to take away the great player that she is, the accolades that she's had this year, even when she just did 24 hours prior and winning them the game. Like, I just don't feel like this small incident should overshadow everything else that this season has been for that team and for her. And so it's just like super annoying. Okay, I get it. Part of it is in the fun. Like, y'all want to talk about the fight. That's just what trolls and messy people do. But at the same time, let's be
Yeah,
cognizant of what we're saying.
all this other talk, ghetto this, racial
Well,
epithet that.
sure.
Nah, y'all weak as hell for that, honestly. Like, for what? They go through enough. I promise you, Don, put them through enough after that.
Right.
I was
Embarrassing
sitting
her
here,
in front of all them white folks.
yeah, we were sitting here like, I would hate to be that close to my home stadium,
Well,
knowing what just happened. Can't even celebrate the damn game because you probably gonna have to run the damn football stadium tonight or something crazy. But
right,
I
exactly.
also wanna harp on kind of the contrast in how this was handled by each coach
Man, gotta talk about it.
because Don Staley immediately, he's like, yeah, we won the tournament, but I want to apologize for X, Y, and Z. I want y'all to give these kids some grace. Like, boom, boom, boom. Diplomatic as always.
Super classy.
Engage in a hug with Flau'jae, right after the game. Flau'jae apparently apologized to Don,
Yep.
and there was words exchanged about that. Has been consistent with that since it happened. But then we get in the press conference, the post game press conference, with none other than Kim Mulkey, head coach for
Yeah,
LSU, and Angel Reese, the Bayou Barbie from Baltimore originally.
Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And baby, she put us on notice. The Bayou Barbie
On
said we
notice,
are not scared of
we ain't
South
never
Carolina.
scared. I am not scared of South Carolina. Now, girl, why would you be scared in the first place? But also, her coach isn't the one, like from what it looked like, they didn't have as much to apologize for from
Yeah, I
what it
guess.
looked like. I guess. But if you count all the stuff that was leading up to that, Angel pulling hair, people
Right.
saying things, going here, doing that, whatever, it's never the one who starts, it's always the one that gets caught, right?
Facts.
You have Kim Mulkey sitting there saying, I wish you would have pushed Angel Reese. When you 6'8", you don't push a kid that's somebody that's that little. Talking about Flau'jae.
For those listening, y'all can't see my face, but I'm just Kim Mulkey
You're fucking with.
never says the right thing at the wrong time. At the right time ever. Like her track record is so bad, it's astonishing.
It's giving
Like
MAGA Mulkey. It's like really rough.
it just also makes me question the players. I'm like, y'all really want to play for her? Y'all want to play for a clown? Like I just it just really perplexes me because
Now, does Kim Mulkey know ball? Yes, absolutely.
for
But
sure.
it's the antics for me. And this press conference, I was like, I've never seen a coach talk about how they wish it was a more fair fight. The
Like
stat from the stature of the That's insane to me. Like if that's I know they're adults by law, but if that's my child at that university, I'm tight.
maybe I'm pulling
Tight.
them out day one. I don't give a damn about a scholarship, a NIL, or nothing because this woman is supposed to be helping you elevate to become a person, a cognitive adult. And I don't want my kid to be an adult that thinks that that is how you handle these situations ever in life. That's like you didn't converted my damn child to a Trump supporter. That's just ridiculous.
So I just what is the standard for that? Like people in the pros can get fined for less.
Hmm.
Right. When coaches say stuff like this, it shouldn't be tolerated, in my opinion. It's not
No,
helpful. It doesn't do anything. And sure, she might have said, like, we don't condone that or that's not who we are, boom, boom, boom. I don't care what she said in the beginning. Why did it go there? Because the chances of these teams seeing each other again is high.
very.
And you might have all of your frontal lobe developed to be determined, but these other ones, they do not. Okay. And so the things you say, the example you set, it matters.
Point blank, period. I'm still really just dumbfounded that she actually said that. Like, when I saw it, because I initially saw it, it was like somebody had tweeted it. And I'm like, am I reading this shit right? I'm like,
No,
I'm
I thought
waiting.
it was AI.
I was like, nah, this is a
I
lie. Like,
thought it was
someone is
AI.
just
No cap.
dragging it. Then I went and watched the presser on YouTube. And I said, oh no, she really said this out of her mouth. Took a moment, paused, and said what she said. It was just like, you let this statement register in your brain and you still let it come out your mouth?
But that's okay too, though, because and this goes for both teams. Like y'all really showed your behind, and
They did.
every team in this tournament now, no, if they didn't know already, they know y'all are hotheads. Every single team in the tournament, and they
Yep.
have
And they
every
can push your
reason.
buttons.
Yeah, they have every reason to push your buttons because, in my opinion, that championship game in that tournament was to me the most exciting and most competitive to watch of all of the tournament games.
Exactly. And that was going to be my other point. Like, I literally was tweeted with one of my friends from college, and I had never seen so many like of my male friends or just other people I follow tweeting about women's basketball before they were tweeting about that game, before the scuffle even happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that just goes to show how exciting that game was, how close it was, how many eyes were on it. And so for the great basketball that was being played to be like overshadowed by that small scuffle that lasted 30 seconds and 20 minutes of a silence and replay. Like, it's honestly just really sad to see. But, we can always pivot and actually talk about the basketball of what was really happening, the greatness that was going on in that game. So I feel like we've given the scuffle enough time. We've said our
Yeah,
points.
we went overtime. Low key.
Yeah, exactly. Like, by close of business, when this podcast comes out, I want the conversations wrapped up on this. Let's get back into the basketball. Let's move on into the tournament because there will be other madness in the month of March. Since we're already at the SEC, might as well go ahead and get into SEC tournament, what we saw from it, what do we think going forward, the teams, what this mean for teams and how they performed in the tournament. So I feel like we should honestly start at the top with the SEC champions, South Carolina Gamecocks. They are still undefeated, 32-0. However, my question is based on seeing their level of play and how they handle certain game situations, basketball related only, do we still think that they are the clear winner or the clear first choice to become this year's national champions?
This is where it's difficult for me because I felt like I left this weekend. I thought I was going to leave this weekend with some answers. I feel like I left this weekend with more questions than answers for some of these teams.
Hmm,
And I think South Carolina played an excellent first half brand of basketball the whole tournament.
indeed.
Right. I think Malaysia Full Wiley is a force to be reckoned with.
Put some respect on her name.
Um, Crazy. I think Tessa Johnson has really grown up, but something about the second half for South Carolina is not clicking.
And I don't even want to just say the second half. It's really that fourth quarter
And that
that
fourth quarter
pisses
is
me off
horrendous.
often.
Yeah, yeah.
It was real rocky, real shaky. And so I
The
think that,
offense gets stagnant at times. There's a lot of unforced errors, carelessness with the ball. Like it's just not that South Carolina brand you want to see. Like it's there's something going on there mentally.
and so what I was kind of just seeing, and I guess like I've watched every single South Carolina game all season. And so being at the tournament, this is my first time watching them in person this season. And what I noticed that the TV doesn't pick up was the lack of hustle that they were having in that second half
Mm,
on defense. And I don't know if it's easier to see in person than it is on TV. At least for me, it was. And I'm just like, I was getting so frustrated. I'm like, if you're going to have turnovers, the least you could do is get back. Try and actually deflect the shot. Just because they're getting a breakaway on a layup doesn't mean that you can't beat them back, especially with the speed that South Carolina has on their team, especially when it
mm,
comes to Malaysia Full Wiley and some of their other players. You could easily get back and beat the other team's player to, stop the easy layup, stop the easy shot, whatever is going to happen. And so that was very frustrating. Also, their lack of offensive rebounding. I understand that that's not a skill that every team is just great at. However, it just doesn't even seem like they try. It's like they just run away, like they don't follow their shot. And it's very annoying, especially when it comes to Kamilla. You're 6'7", babes. You're already at the rim. All you got to do is put your hands up. Try and catch it anywhere for the putback.
yeah,
I think that was exacerbated them playing LSU because that's what Angel Reese does so well is that she
yeah.
gets so many of those
And Anissa
putbacks, so
Murrow,
many
they're very
offensive
good
rebounds.
offensive rebounders. Yeah, they're a great offensive rebounding team.
And so seeing that in contrast, I was like, nah, this is crazy. Y'all gotta try and beat them on the offensive boards because this is nasty. I think that South Carolina's benefit still, and it's been their benefit all season, is their depth. If someone is having an
Hmm.
off night, they have such a deep bench, such a deep team that somebody else can still have a chance to shine and go off. And so that's why they're not losing games. However, if they were
Hmm.
dependent like a lot of other teams are, I feel like on their starting five or their starting five and their six man, they would have lost more games by now because there's been a lot of times, especially in the tournament, I feel like where their starting five has not shown up. And you and I were texting back and forth about this. Like Kamilla, Pow Pow was having, some off shooting.
To LSU's credit, because they were in Pow Pow's grill, they were giving her some problems. They were in her space, like she wasn't getting a lot of the looks she likes to get. So that's credit to LSU for guarding Pow Pow well. But Kamilla missed a lot of bunnies. Like, don't start shooting a
They
three and
did.
then missing cribs. Like, what's going on, my good sis? I think Angel's physicality was bothering her more than she was trying to let on. She was smiling a lot in the game, but
Right.
yeah, Angel knew exactly how to play you and how to push your buttons. It wasn't her first time playing against you, and she knew exactly what she needed to do, and she stayed out of foul trouble, so you didn't get a break from her like you did in
Exactly.
the previous
Right.
game. So you had to deal with her the whole time, and I think
Mhm.
it did affect Camilla. I saw a lot from the SEC coaches to this tournament when they played South Carolina of how they made their adjustments. They have South
Yeah,
Carolina's number.
for sure.
Tennessee brought Cardoso into ball screen play, and that was a serious problem. Now, Rakia Jackson is a pro
And
and
is.
gets whatever she wants, and
Period.
she did in that second half
For
in the
sure. It
semifinals.
was crazy to
But
see.
she left nothing on the plate. Like, I saw coaches like, oh, I don't have to worry about anybody but how to figure out South Carolina. And if you get them stagnant on offense, if you get Camilla uncomfortable, because that's their go-to. They love a
There
Raven
goes.
to Camilla, and like Ashland for some reason this postseason hasn't been as consistent.
Right.
It's a mess. Like, the second half is like they are playing not to lose. They're not playing to win. They're playing not to lose. It feels like the other team starts making a run,
Yep.
and then they're able to answer, but it's like not as clean as you would expect.
Exactly. And just to hit more on it, like you hit on a good point about Ashland not really producing as much in this postseason so far. And so, like I was saying, how depth is so much of their strength, I feel like it's also their kryptonite a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because they change out the rotation so much. It's not always the same
Mm-hmm.
people playing with each other. Sometimes that chemistry is off, or it takes a couple possessions, or it takes a little bit of time for it to click, to start clicking. And then it's like, okay, now we were up by 20. Now we're down by 5. Like what you're saying, now we're just trying not to lose. And then Dawn is subbing out again. So it's helpful because they can beat other people with fresh legs, but it's a detriment to themselves because it's like these same people aren't always on the floor together. It's always changing. And so that's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit difficult and just something that I noticed. But to answer the
Yeah.
question more head on, do I still think that South Carolina is the clear national champion? What I'll say is before I didn't think that they were beatable. I didn't see any other team
Mm-hmm.
that could really beat them. But this postseason, watching the tournament games, there are teams that can beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on any given night, if they have an off night or shooting just doesn't go well, they could lose. Do I still
Yeah.
think, based on their depth, based on their coach, based on the talents that they have, that they are a national champion contender? 100%. Do I still think that they're
Mm-hmm.
the front runner? I do. I still think that they're
Mm-hmm.
likely going to be the national champion, but I'm not so confident as I was before that nobody could beat them. I definitely think that there are
Yeah.
teams that could potentially beat them.
Any team that beats them would be an upset. So do I think they could be upset? Yeah, maybe. Do I think there are 8 teams better than South Carolina? No,
No,
I don't think there's 8. 4.
I wouldn't even say four.
I don't think there's 4. I see them in the final four. I do, but a lot has to go their way, right?
Right.
Like, Tennessee was right there. Statistically, based off of what we know about Camilla, Camilla's a dog, but statistically, that 3-point shot shouldn't have gone in.
And
So,
sometimes the stars just align. Like I just feel like
mhm,
this is South Carolina's year. This is Dawn's year. Like she has got robbed in other years, how we've discussed before. And so I just feel like 2024 is their year. And so everything is just kind of going right for them. Not saying the talent's not there, it definitely is. Not saying the X's O's aren't there, it definitely is. But it's that plus they just kind of got the universe on their side a little bit. Like
mhm,
this is their
they
year.
got
So
that
some stuff
favor.
that shouldn't be happening, yeah, it's clicking
Yeah,
for them. So
some people just have favor, and something else that's going for South Carolina, at least as far as we know, is they haven't had as many injuries
and I do feel like
compared to
that
other.
is partially due to their depth as well. It's like when you're not
Hmm.
having to play all those minutes, when you're not having to play 40 minutes, Your body's in better shape. And I also think that their strength and conditioning coach, even though I feel like some of them can put on some more weight, Kamilla,
More weight or just more explosiveness?
no more weight. I think Angel was getting in her ass a little bit just because she was also just stronger than she was.
I think,
Honestly,
yeah,
she was
and
bullying her a little
I
bit.
think we're talking about the same thing. I think we're talking
Yeah,
about the same thing.
same thing. Especially because
Because I wouldn't, if you would have told me to guess, if I thought Angel Reese was pound for pound stronger than Camilla Cardoso, I probably wouldn't have said yes. But
yeah, no,
now I don't know what Angel Beyond with her mobility training and her hips and her like
yeah,
squat, and to be playing like that against someone who has inches on you and weight on you with a rolled ankle,
exactly.
you have a different mental
Mindset.
toughness too. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy. So shout out to her.
But yeah, just to say that yeah, their injuries, I definitely think that that's a benefit to them, and I hope that they stay injury free. I mean, we hate to see any team have injuries,
No,
especially
yeah, we don't want
in the
that.
postseason. And just to say it again,
Um,
the word depth.
get well, Pua,
I think
because
that
good lord,
the
that was
tournament
scary.
really showed how fatigued teams can get, and
Mm-hmm.
playing back to back like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where South Carolina also has the edge because they're not playing
Mm-hmm.
those full 40 minutes. When it comes tournament time and they're playing back to back, some people might be a team that could match up well with them, but they just fatigue. They're tired. And
Mm-hmm. And the other thing they have is Malaysia Wiley, who
oh,
is
come on, generational.
generational talent.
It's
The
so
things
just
some of the stuff
electrifying.
she does, you can't teach it.
You can't. I don't even know how she learned to do it or taught herself to do
She
it,
reads the floor.
developed
She
it. It's
sees the
just
floor differently. She sees the floor.
that's exactly it. It's not even a skill set thing. It's a mental thing. It's just I don't even want to say IQ. It's just
Tapped into a different way of thinking about the game. Like, and she picks up tendencies from other players. The way she was picking people's pockets, the way she had Haley Van Lith going in a circle a
she
couple
had
of times.
Haley in the trenches, baby.
Yes, her hesitations are very exact.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's got her own. She's already one of the. There's players I think have stood out this year and have specific skill sets that are dangerous as freshmen. But Malaysia looks like the kind of player that has her own brand of basketball, and that's something you don't really see
often.
in a freshman often.
Right. I definitely agree. She's definitely their X factor. She's already amazing. She's going to be even more amazing. I feel like we've harped on South Carolina, but on the other side of that SEC championship game, we have LSU. And I feel like people haven't talked about it enough this season how much Flau'jae Johnson has improved
Yeah.
from her freshman year to sophomore year. And that's saying a lot with her being the SEC freshman of the year last year and to her now being an even better guard her sophomore year. Watching her versus Ole Miss is what solidified it for me. I
Mm-hmm.
said, no, she is different this year. She has improved her defense for one. That's really the
Mm-hmm.
main thing. Like I know that I watched the interview and she had said before, like in high school she didn't play defense, she just didn't have to, and so for her to be
That's a
so good on
fact.
the defensive end now, just 2 years into college, is really amazing to see and just a major asset for her because it allows her to, like you said, pick pockets, get out in transition, and make those kind of plays. So it just has the way her defense has improved has turned her offense up even more. So
Yeah, her length is. She uses all her length on defense now. She can lock down somebody. Who did they switch her on to? They switched her on to Malaysia
yeah, yeah, she was guarding
at
Malaysia.
one point in the second half because Malaysia, she wasn't originally guarding Malaysia. They switched her on to her and she started giving Malaysia some problems. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Kim Mulkey drew up a beautiful play at the end for them to shoot that three where it was an inbounds play from the sideline.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm stealing that from my AA team on God.
period.
But I was like, why'd you give it to Haley? That should have been Flau'jae, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. The way that Flau'jae had been shooting just in the tournament alone. She was getting any shot she wanted. They were falling, so she had the hot hand. I don't understand why they moved away from that.
She drew that up for Haley Van Lith. I couldn't believe that mess. I was like, that's a joke.
Yeah.
It was executed really well too. It was just if you're gonna run that play, you have to have somebody that knows how to throw the ball the exact right way. Because I think, to Haley's credit, Haley, it's not that I don't think Haley's a shooter. Haley's credit, that pass was a little short, and
All right.
she had to reach to shoot the ball. But if it had gotten right in the pocket, I think she would have knocked it down. But that play was drawn beautifully. Yeah. But here
So,
we go. Are there 8 teams better than LSU right now?
mm, LSU. Are there 8 teams better than LSU? I don't think so. I think that there may be. No, I no, I don't. I don't. I'm just gonna stand on that. I
You
don't
just
think
gonna
there's
say no.
8 teams better than LSU. Do I necessarily think that LSU is 100% a Final Four team? No, but I don't think there's 8 teams better than LSU. Do you?
Yeah, I don't know if LSU is a Final Four team, but I will say that they have what a couple of other teams don't have, and that is they still haven't played their best basketball.
Facts. It's
They're
starting to show
like,
up though.
yeah, they're starting. They're on the rise right at the right time. They're peaking at the right time. They haven't peaked in their season yet, and they're the defenders, right? And that
Right.
is a different motivation and
Exactly.
mindset. You know exactly what it takes to get there. So yeah, I think they're an Elite Eight squad. I don't know if they're a Final Four squad. I'm probably right there with you.
Yeah.
But I think they're an Elite Eight squad for sure. They're a contender for sure. And star player shows up.
Every game.
You can play the game through her
Right.
and it'll work. Um
I think that if Michaela Williams, I know that she's currently, suffering from an injury. So is Flau'jae, so is Angel. But if Michaela Williams can get back into the bag that she was into in non-conference, I think
mhm.
that may push them into a Final Four team.
And I think
With
if
all
Haley Van
cylinders.
Lith has a breakthrough game soon, like early in the tournament, and gets more of her confidence in gear, I think that'll do something too, because she's due for a big game.
It is. Yeah. If Janae Kent, who they started to go to in the
Hmm.
tournament, who we haven't really seen play much all season until now, if they start going to her even more, she is a really good defender. Like, I was not familiar with her game because we didn't see her play, but I feel like she just is an asset, and I think that they could use her, especially when it comes to like resting players. So making sure Mulkey just manages minutes just a little bit better to keep down on fatigue, I think that could also help push them into a potential Final Four team. So for the rest of the SEC tournament, I mean, Tennessee, we have to give them a nod. I feel like they've had a really, really rough season.
Yeah,
Rakia Jackson, like we said,
my
is a
God.
pro, but I feel like they are. I don't know if it's you talked about Kelly and her ability to coach and how the plays that she was drawing up and the adjustments that she made, especially in that South Carolina game in the tournament, were awesome. Especially because I feel like there's been a lot of discourse on Kelly getting fired after this
Oh
season,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
just based on how Tennessee's been performing. But the way they performed in the SEC tournament and the way they've been performing against South Carolina the last few times they played, I feel like they could, make some type of run in the tournament. Do I think that they're
Mhm.
Elite Eight team? No. Do I think they can make a Sweet 16? Sure.
I think it all depends on who they line up against. They probably
Matchup.
could make the Elite Eight, but I think by the adjustments were the right ones, but by the time they figured it out,
It was too
they were
late.
down at what 23 at some point
Exactly.
in that
Like,
game.
yeah,
Carolina came out hungry, looking for blood,
for sure.
knocked down every shot pretty much in the first quarter.
Out the gate.
What I didn't like seeing in the first half that I think changed in the second half was the like lack of poise that Tennessee had. Their mind was not.
Mm.
They were playing very timid against South Carolina, and I didn't think that was characteristic of that team. I didn't expect them to come out like that.
Exactly. It was almost like they were scared to shoot the ball. It was very
It
annoying.
was fun. But they woke up, and Rakia did
took
her
over.
thing.
She did what
It was
Rukia does.
crazy.
I think that they'll make some type of tournament run because at first the conversation was, are they even going to make it to the NCAA tournament? It was looking that bad earlier on in the
Mm-hmm.
season, and now it's like, okay, they're going to make it to the tournament. And they may do okay in the tournament. Now, Ole Miss, another SEC team, I feel
No.
like you feel like no. Oh well, let me let you go first then. No, why no?
Okay, I say because I like Coach Yo. I like Ole
Yes.
Miss, right? They
Okay.
don't have no outside shooting, and after a point, you have to do something about that. Like I think they play very good defense. I think they play a cool brand of basketball. They have a lot of like slashing players. They have a lot of drivers, but they don't have any. You got to have somebody that's like
Right.
automatic, and they just don't. And I don't think yeah, I just don't think they have enough offensive tools to get the job done and go far in the tournament. I don't.
So I disagree. And we don't disagree often, but I do think that I agree with you on the fact that they do not have a lot of offensive weapons, especially when it comes to perimeter. It's very much lacking. Madison Scott can knock down the shot, Marquisha Davis, but that's really about it. But it's not like you said automatic. However, I feel like their defense is so stellar that if the other teams are not having good offensive nights, they could get enough defensive stops to outscore a lot of other teams, even without having that perimeter shooting. And so I think that the way that they played Florida really showed that in the tournament. And so, do I think that they're an Elite Eight team? I don't know. Probably not. But Sweet 16 team, maybe. I could see them definitely upsetting some other teams just on their defense alone, honestly. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Defense wins games.
And and that's just the kind of girl I am. That's how my coach, aka my mom, raised me. It was like,
Mhm.
defense wins championships. So that's what it is. Now, Florida, I don't know. Did you watch that game between
What is
Florida and Ole Miss?
trash for? I'm sorry.
What? I don't know. I
It's
was
just so you can't take what they did. Like everybody gets hype at tournament time. Like you can't take what they did and say, "Oh yeah, they ready." I'm not convinced. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't say that they're necessarily ready, but I do think that they're not as ready as I thought they were. What am I trying to say? They've
They're
had
more
glimmers.
ready than that.
Yeah. They've had moments out the season in some of the games I've seen where they're good. To me, they remind me so much of Auburn. They're one of those teams that aren't necessarily the most talented, like when we're talking about pure talent, but they are gritty enough. They are hustler, like they'll hustle enough and
They
like
might sneak up on somebody and
yeah, like
upset them.
they're just that much of competitors and have that much grit to the point where they can sometimes get wins that they maybe shouldn't have when it's a talent versus talent matchup.
So you're
And
saying they could upset like a South Carolina?
I didn't go that far. I did not say that. Let the record reflect I did
I'm
not say that.
just, just
However,
making sure they could upset an Iowa.
okay, I'm thinking more of like a UCLA, uh, somebody else, a Texas, not the most
Anybody
juggernauts,
else?
other people.
Okay.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, now Auburn, we don't really gotta say too much, but
No, we don't. It's all
I
right.
just was so disappointed in my sisters.
Yeah, that was a
It
lot.
was hard to
That
watch
was a lot.
versus LSU. It was nasty basketball, atrocious.
Y'all Angel up that whole game.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and
Angel
move on
in
from that.
one clip, it looked like Angel was saying like, "Man, I didn't know I was going to lunch. Like, I didn't know I was, or I, it didn't look. I didn't know I was going to brunch. I'm eating y'all up. Like, it looked like that's what she said. I read lips a little bit, but not too much. But it was
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
I was like, "Not. I thought
The
I didn't know
com-
I was going to brunch."
she was eating their ass up. Flau'jae was eating their ass up. It was real bad. My mom was watching it. When we were driving to the tournament, and she
Mm-hmm.
literally was like, "It's so bad I can't look away." Like that's what she kept
Mm.
saying. I'm like,
Yeah,
I
it
just said turn
reminded
it
me of
off,
one of
child.
those
Turn it.
AAU games where you're like, this team is clearly playing down. They playing their D1 team. They playing D2 to qualify for the nationals or something. It reminded me of that.
Well,
Yeah,
I feel like that kind of puts a wrap on the SEC. We got to move on to the other tournaments and talk about what those outcomes look like for March Madness. So I feel like the next most exciting tournament where there was so much competition was the Pac 12. It's been, to me, the number one conference all season in terms of competition and just not knowing who's going to be the top dog on any given day. Child, if y'all don't know by now, University of Southern California are the Pac 12, last Pac 12, final Pac 12 conference champions. And they honestly did it with the Juju Watkins not having the greatest night against Stanford,
but you know who did?
Mackenzie Forbes.
Indeed,
Because, people call them Juju and the nerds. But yesterday, it was the nerds and Juju.
the nice job.
Revenge of the Nerds. But it was really, really, really great to see. Kinsey, the shots were just falling. She's been good though, especially the last half of the season. I feel like she's been really good anyway. And so she was, like you said, on for Haley, was just due for a night. And it just happened to be the Pac 12 tournament. And without Juju being the number one option, she was definitely number two. She's been a number two option on the team. And so she went from number two to number one. Now, Stanford Child,
Now the
let's have a moment of
girls.
silence. It, the because the way
Now
that the
Miss
people have hyped
Brink did her thing. Okay, she should have got a couple fouls called, in my opinion, on her. But she did her thing, especially defensively.
per
She was
usual.
hustling per usual. She's definitely a draft pick. No disrespect there. I just think, and no disrespect for Tara because Miss Ma'am plays chess. She
Not
said,
check.
okay, not checkers ever. She plays chess. We go to Stanford University, okay?
Period.
So, but what she forgot was the other girls on that team are Ivy League, and so they know chess. And when you throw two, three players at a time to swarm, their star player in Juju Watkins, they adjusted very well. They said, "Oh, we know how to make the extra pass. We know how to read the
Yeah.
defense. We have a decent mid range. We can clean up from three. We,
Is this your
they
Jack and
picked
Jill
that
voice? What
apart.
is this voice?
It's hilarious. It's my, education Ivy
Hoity toity?
League boy. Hoity-toity, if you will, pretentious and educated and scholarly. But it wasn't
Girl, you sound
enough.
like the founding fathers. You're killing me.
Well, Miss Vanderveer, it was not enough. Okay, the girls
No.
who get it, and Mackenzie Forbes got it, and she's a grown woman because she's been in school a long time. They kept
Well,
talking about it
not too
on,
much.
kept talking about it
ESPN.
on ESPN, and like, she was at Harvard, then she took a year and she had to do junior college because she wanted to keep her eligibility. Then she went back and went to Columbia. I'm like, not Harvard and Columbia, my God. Then,
I thought you went to California, like UCal.
well, UCal, sorry. Then
Sorry.
she had to get out of there and be a grad student and
Mhm.
still play. I'm like, this is too much. You love the game too much. How are you going through all of that?
No, she loves the game for real. I watched an interview she did with Mark Schindler, and she is a
Mm,
basketball junkie. She wants to be a NBA front of office type of person, like the person that
I
runs
love
it.
that
Like
for her.
she lives and breathes basketball. So I'm not surprised that she went through all those hoops, but I'm excited to see what her career is going to look like in the W after that game, that showing. I'm sure coaches were looking at her. I'm sure that she will be drafted and deserves a training camp
Oh
contract.
yeah, there's
So,
people like rubbing their hands together as we speak,
yeah.
drawing up a contract as we speak.
Period. As they should. So, what does this mean in terms of March Madness? I always thought so far that this year University of Southern California was the better team than Stanford. I think that people look at Cameron Brink and think, period, this is the best team. Because Cameron Brink is so good. And don't get me wrong, Kiki Iriafen has her great,
Mm.
Batman Robin, and they are excellent together, and they can easily win a lot of games on any given day. But is that enough to win a championship? I don't think so. Their guard play at Stanford is atrocious. It's disgusting. Um, it actually is very upsetting to me. It's just really bad. Kara
It's very
should have
upsetting
went and got
to
her
my
some shooter.
home girls.
it, it's
Keep
bad.
going. You're gonna
Like
roll. You're
it's
in your
really
bag.
sickening. So that's where I'm worried about them. Do I think there are 8 teams better than Stanford?
No, I don't.
I don't. Do I think there's 4 teams better than Stanford? Yeah, I do.
Ooh, spicy.
But 8 teams? No. But hey,
Even if Spencer has to play somebody again that they played before.
who's Stanford?
Mm-hmm.
I think they have lost to USC twice. They have lost to random teams in the Pac-12 that they shouldn't have lost to, being the number one seed.
Yeah. And this is
So
what the thing is about the counter, right? Like the counter is a good thing. Like you want to be able to play teams and remember what they did last time and not try to repeat those mistakes. But baby, you got to give them something different. It's one thing to be playing, you know, defensive or reactive. It's another thing to be imposing your will. Like make them adjust to you. And I don't know that they did that against USC.
no, they
I
didn't.
think they were just
They
like
adjusted to
they
Juju.
listened and
To Juju.
they understood the assignment. The assignment was Juju. They did that. It just didn't work.
Exactly. It wasn't enough because they underestimated the weapons that USC has. Because we often don't get to see what USC has because a lot of other teams don't have an answer for Juju. Those
Right.
pieces have been there all season. It wasn't like they randomly went and got some new players or the people just started showing up who hadn't been showing up.
Right.
Do I think that there are 8 teams better than University of California?
Southern California. We from the South, y'all.
So,
Forgive
child,
us.
forgive me. I've
The
been in South
USC,
Carolina
the
country for
USC
days.
Trojans. Yeah.
Trojans. Do we? Do I think? Do we think there are 8 teams better than them? I, don't- I want to say no.
Mm, I want to say no, but I'm not sure. I can't be 100% sure
Yeah, I'm really
because
not sure. Like,
everybody, like, I don't know what this team is actually capable of now. I'm convinced after that championship game because I'm like, what the hell? Because
I'm so lost.
I think everybody had the game plan for USC in the tournament that Tara did. And now they're probably like, damn, like, if this is what the rest of the team can do, what are we finna do?
I was like, do we not triple team? Do we double team? Like,
Do
what?
we
What
want,
is
like, what
the?
do we zone? Like, what do we do?
It's not clear, and I'm also just not confident in what USC's team ability is all the time. Like, not just in other teams' ability to stop them, but
Mm-hmm.
them. Like, I feel like Mackenzie, she can go off, and she has on
Yeah,
multiple
budget.
occasions. Caleb Padilla is going to be good for a couple threes every game. Like, I know that's solid. But some of their other major pieces that are like hit or miss are what makes me unsure if there are 18s better than them. And that's really like contingent on Rhea Marshall. When she shows up and she's
Mm-hmm.
rebounding and she's hitting shots too in the paint on
Yep.
top of Juju and everybody else hitting their outside perimeter shots, yeah, I think that there's not 8 teams that are better than them. But my question is Rhea going to show up? She's not someone who's an Angel Reese who I know is going to show up every game, game in, game out. She's not as consistent. So I'm just very unsure. And as much as I'm a Juju stan and I love her, she's going to show up every game and she's going to get some points, but some of her shooting nights are better than others. And she is a freshman, and so you're allowed to have that little level of inconsistency. So it's like, okay, but if that's your
Yeah.
star and this is who,
Yeah, if Juju distributes the ball and they're hitting shots though,
yeah, there's not
because I
18
think
better than
in
them.
the second half Juju was just like, you know what,
Yeah, she would
I'm
pass.
gonna facilitate.
Exactly. And I think that's what Juju should be doing anyway, because the more she facilitates, the more open she's going to become for her own shot. She's going to be
Hmm.
nasty. So
She
yeah,
still has
I
some
don't know.
moments where I was just like, this is a freshman, like still.
Oh,
Like where
it's
she
really
got
crazy.
to it, she gets her first step on people. Ugh. I haven't seen somebody her
It's
mid post game. I haven't seen a
girl.
freshman with that kind of a mid post game. It's
It's
uncanny,
nasty.
honestly. I just I just make faces like I'm making right now, like
Yeah,
mm.
like it's just so rank. Like like I can't believe
Yeah,
you did that.
right.
But that's good. That's what it's supposed to be. So that's my question mark. They're Stanford and USC. I'm just very perplexed by them. I don't know what's going on. Now UCLA. They were so good to
Now
begin the season. I
UCLA,
thought this was a Final Four team. But seeing them as of
child,
late,
peak before.
especially Pac 12 tournament, I am less and less confident in them. Not when it comes to talent. I think talent for sure is there. Charisma Osborne, Kiki Rice, the
Mm-hmm.
list goes on, Lauren Betts. But the
Mm-hmm.
system that their
I
coach
like one best a
runs and
lot.
how much they have to play in that system is very confusing to me because it just doesn't make sense. Lauren Betts is 6'7". Her efficiency is off the charts.
Yeah, I
Most
love
people
her.
can't match up with her. And they don't go to her as often as they should.
Mm-hmm.
And so that often loses them games because then they're dependent on their guards to make shots when it's like, maybe you got a giraffe in the damn paint that can be getting
Mm-hmm.
you these same easy points, but you're kicking it out. So I just don't understand what they're doing. I think that they have Final Four pieces. I just don't know if their coach has set them up for success with those pieces.
Yeah,
I don't know what you think about UCLA. Do
that
you
was
think they're
excellent analysis.
oh, thank you.
Yeah, senior.
I'm not just a
I was
personality
trying
hire,
to talk
guys.
to
I do know
you.
things.
Correct. I think they know I'm the personality higher.
No, no,
Okay, but not necessarily an agreeable personality.
no. Bring
It's
me.
giving Stephen A.
Not too
Um,
much.
like it's giving, you know. I
18's better.
think, yeah, I think there's 8 teams better than UCLA.
Really? Oh, I didn't mean to sound that excited, but
I just feel
I think
like
you
there
really said that.
are. I can't tell you who because I'm not letting you know until you tune in on Wednesday. But
Period.
yeah, I'm not convinced UCLA is a Final Four team,
Mm,
and yeah, I think people can beat them. I think if you're physical enough with them, with their guards in particular, you will be successful. Now they have time to regroup over the next couple weeks and boom boom, but I
no.
just don't see it.
Yeah. I'm yeah, I said what I said on them. Now to wrap up the pack, there's only really two other teams that I could see making deep runs or any type of run in the tournament. That's of course Colorado and potentially Utah. Utah less and less because they're so dependent on Peely, but Colorado, I feel like when all cylinders are clicking, they really can be a great team. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I just don't know if they have the size when it
Mhm.
comes to being a champion. And I hate that that's their downfall because I feel like the talent is there. Um, yeah, so
The leadership is there, the coaching is there. They have really
exactly
good decision makers, really mature players in their team. But I think you're right. Like when it comes to high athleticism, it might be like they might catch somebody off guard.
for sure.
But yeah, I don't know how deep they can actually go.
Exactly because I think if Jalen Sherrod gets in foul trouble or even Von Lay, then it's curtains for them. It's just like, all right,
Mhm.
they can finish out a game, but it's not a winnable situation. So yeah, I think it's just going to be matchup based for them. They could easily be an elite eight team, or they could be a out second first round kind of team. It just really depends. So uh, now Utah, I'm sorry, sisters, I don't
I'm
see
sorry,
it.
sisters, but please prove me wrong.
Right,
Please
I'm open
make
to
it
it, but
exciting. Make March Madness what it's supposed to be. But I like P
exactly,
League can been carrying y'all on our whole back,
hold back.
and I think she getting tired. I'm getting tired
And
for her.
I want my sister to get her rest before she goes to the league this summer. So
Correct.
I say y'all should just wrap it up. Hang it up, flat screen, straight like that. So that kind of wraps up the pack. It's a lot of question marks in the pack. A lot of teams that we thought maybe were Final Four teams that we're now having way more question marks on or not sure. But time will tell. We are in the month of March now. Next conference, none other than ACC. If you don't know, ACC conference champs Notre Dame, big Notre Dame. Shout out to Niele Ivy and the biggest dog, Hannah Hidalgo. I think that there was nothing really surprising to me about Notre Dame and any of their games. They've been doing what they've been doing all season. Hannah's a dog. Madison Westbeld, she can go off occasionally and helps them out. Sonia Citron occasionally, but for most part it's Hannah. And Yale can, write some X's and O's. Cool. Works for me. No notes. They'll be tournament ready. Do I think that there's eight teams better than them? Mm. I want to say
Gonna say
yes.
correct.
But then again, I want to say no because Hannah's such a dog. I feel like she could will them to so many wins. But at the same time, I don't think, based on their offense, like as you said so many times,
Hmm.
and the lack of just additional scoring besides her in Madison, I don't see it. So they'll make it to Sweet
Yeah, I
16.
think next year,
Yeah. Next year, I could
which
see it being
is
real nasty. Olivia Miles will be back. Yeah.
correct.
Who knows what their recruiting class is going to look like? Yeah. It could be scary. Scary
But
hours.
right now, everything's on Hannah, and I don't think that's enough.
Especially as a freshman. That's still a lot. Like,
Mhm.
we keep saying it, but we have to say it. They're still freshmen. She's never been here before. So, we'll see. Now, NC State. They've had a good year.
Ooh,
They lost to Notre Dame in the championship. They're another one of those teams that just confuses the hell out of me
mm-hmm.
because they're a talented team, yes, but I just feel like they're so hit or miss, so inconsistent. Like sometimes they've been so good, and I'm like, no, this is a dominant team. Their coach is good, like they're doing what they're supposed to do. But then I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, what kind of basketball are we playing? Are y'all even in the game? Do you care? Like, I don't want to say it's a laziness or just a lack of hustle. It just looks a mess, child.
Yeah. What's their center?
River Baldwin.
Yeah. Good player.
She's a decent center,
Decent
but when it
center.
comes to having to match up with the other bigs,
Correct.
yeah, she's not holding a candle to
Um,
them, unfortunately.
I'm glad you said River Baldwin because I'm always saying uh River Sanaya. That's not right.
No.
River Baldwin.
Sanaya Rivers.
River is the guard. Okay. I gotta get that right. Sanaya River is going to have to play.
Her ass off.
She got to play. Ain't no hiding. Sometimes she hides.
That
You don't have no.
and I feel like Isaiah James on their teams also
Mm-hmm.
does a good job to supplement when Sanaya isn't necessarily on her P's and Q's. But
Yeah.
if they both come out dominant and River is doing what she's supposed to, then they do look like a elite 18.
Mm-hmm. They have a good
But it's
enough
just
team to do it.
the talent. That's something like the talent is there. It's just so inconsistent, and I don't
Yeah.
understand the inconsistency of it. It just perplexes me. So they're just, yeah, lots of question marks. The only one who's really I'm just sure about in the ACC is Notre Dame. So the next team is Virginia Tech. And so I feel like we have to discuss Virginia Tech in two different ways. Virginia Tech without Kitley and Virginia Tech with Kitley. And
Correct.
like what does that future look like? I mean, obviously without Kitley, baby, they could get eliminated day one. It's not cute. It's not looking good. The load being all on Georgia Amore is just not it. She can do her big one and go for 35, 40, and they will still lose the game.
No facts.
And that's very unfortunate.
It
And
is. It really is.
as
Georgia
much as
Amore
I'm
should have transferred to UConn,
oh,
and
ooh, hot take.
you wasn't
That would
gonna
have
go nowhere.
now that you say that
You
Georgia
wasn't gonna
Amore
go nowhere
at UConn, that would have been fire. With Paige and Aaliyah,
with Paige.
yeah, that's a
And
Final Four team.
if AZ was healthy,
That's a that,
huh,
that's a contender team.
up.
Well, shoulda, coulda, woulda, child. But now with Kitley, what do we think Virginia Tech can do? Do we think there's 8 teams better than Virginia Tech with Kitley?
With Kitley, I don't think so.
I don't think so
Just
either.
because they know what they're doing
Exactly,
and they're
experience
consistent in their experience. Like I don't think so, but
without
without
Kitley.
Kitley, I don't see it.
Yeah, it's curtains. I hate to say it straight like that, but that just
Crazy.
it is what it is. Hang it up, bookies.
That's real nasty word.
Beautiful gowns, child.
Lord.
So yeah, I mean, child, I don't even really ACC, Florida State. I like watching them all year, but they just are like I said, other just like the other team, just too inconsistent. But they're
Mm.
inconsistent with a lack of talent as well. They have a few people that are good, of course, Nia Latson. I think Bajetti can do her big one occasionally on certain days, but overall, no,
Oof.
I don't see it for
I'm
them.
sorry
Not
to
this
the
year.
state of Florida. It doesn't look too sweet for y'all
Mm-mm. No, no.
on a number of levels.
That kind of wraps up the ACC for the most part. The only hope that the ACC has for real is Notre Dame, and if Kitley can get healthy and come back for Virginia Tech. Now the Big Ten,
Child.
child, this this was the most interesting conference shakeout, I think, to me, because I just didn't
I told
expect
you
it.
not to count out Nebraska now.
You sure did. You told me not to count out them corn huskers, honey,
And
and
the
I counted
corn
them out,
huskers, honey.
and they came to play. So if you
Okay.
guys don't know, Iowa Hawkeyes are the Big Ten Conference tournament champs. They played against Nebraska in the championship game, and honestly, Nebraska came out swinging. Like they was
Mm.
boom, 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 boom. I didn't get to watch all the games because I was at the SEC championship, but the pieces I did see, I said, okay, now wait a minute, child. It was looking kind of crazy. I said,
And
Iowa.
Caitlin, she got a little, she had to get hit in the mouth. She was
Mm,
like, oh,
right.
we're here. Like the first half, she was like, oh, what's going on with this? But it was like, I think they said the tale of two halves. Caitlin Clark is Caitlin Clark. She's the
Right.
best college player right now. She's going to the league. She's a pro.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, okay, y'all, you know the shot is gonna come back, but also I can kill y'all with twos. I can kill
Exactly.
y'all with the no look passes. Like
Exactly. The assist alone.
the
So
game is complete,
very well rounded.
very well rounded.
I can't
And
say two-way player, but I can say well rounded.
my girlfriend said the most fascinating thing about Caitlin Clark I've heard in a while. I'm gonna steal it, or I took inspiration from it, I should say. Caitlin Clark plays the game in italics.
Oh, that gives
You
a
know,
very lawyer statement, but I love it.
correct. Even the lean of her body, like Caitlin's always a little bit low, a little bit at an angle. But the way she cuts, the way she moves, the way she picks people apart and goes and uses her timing at the exact right time to get her shot off, it's like she's playing in italic mode. And that was cool. It's always cool to watch, but it's like watching her come in that second half, especially after scoring only 4 points in the first half, newfound respect.
Man.
Newfound respect for Caitlin Clark over here. Anyway.
And I think that a lot of times when you're used to watching certain players over and over, just anything on repetitive, you like the shininess of it kind of goes away. And having my mom watch Caitlin Clark for the first time kind of brought it back for me. She was so amazed,
Hmm.
like so gassed. And I'm like, oh wow, like, we're used. I'm like, this is just Caitlin. This is what she does. And then, but
Right.
having a newcomer come
You tired of
and
giving
watch it,
y'all buckets.
right, and like just be so flabbergasted at how she plays the game and the stuff that she can do, it just puts in perspective of how great she really is. So as much as we be seeming like we're bashing a girl, we're not. We just talk about the parody in the media and how they only want to talk about Caitlyn, but she is that girl. And her picture of with the championship trophy, very iconic recreation
Very
of the Kobe championship. I stand.
hmm
It was cute. AA down.
Yeah. Other thing about that game for me was how does how do Iowa's role players step up in the big moments? Because that's kind of just been the narrative is like, oh, they don't have Cisnano, they don't have like those other key pieces from last year. What are they gonna do? And
Right.
they held their own. Like they're tournament ready. I think the other thing about Iowa is because you know you're playing Caitlin Clark, a lot of teams I see come out with their full energy, as they should, right? Like, but I feel like
Right.
they gas themselves in the first half. Like they be going 110 miles per hour, executing. Then they come out that second half, baby. They done gave a whole game in one half. They're like, ooh, wee. Now they're playing keep up.
Exhausting.
Um, yeah, and if you're reacting to Caitlyn, it's already too late.
Facts.
So yeah, I don't know how far. I really don't know how far Iowa's going to go in this tournament, but
But I mean, just to keep the benchmarker, do we think that there's 8 teams better than Iowa?
I'm going to say no.
I'm gonna also say no. But there
I'm gonna
potentially
say,
are 4 teams better than them.
yeah, I think there's potentially four, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't think there's eight. It's
Right.
again going to depend on how well the role players step into the limelight. One can't always be giving y'all 30 piece or 50 piece. Like,
She ain't gave us the 50 piece yet.
not quite, but I think she's saving
Not
it.
too late.
Sometimes I feel like she's saving a little something for later.
Maybe, gotta keep up with the theatrics of it all. So,
Hmm.
okay. I haven't really watched Nebraska like that this year, so you were the one telling me to not count them out. What do we feel like the tournament did for Nebraska, or what does that say about the kind of run that they're gonna make in the tournament?
I think Nebraska is another one of those teams that is their postseason. They didn't peak yet. Like they're still
Right.
growing into a championship caliber team. And the tournament, if anything, showed me other teams don't see them coming. That's a great
Facts.
edge to have. Like all this talk has been about Iowa, LSU, South Carolina, USC, Notre Dame all year, right?
Hmm.
As if some of these other, even Utah and Colorado getting more shine, as if Nebraska hasn't been hanging in there, climbing up the rankings all season, getting pretty close losses during the season in conference play, not like getting like blown out by any means. And if you're a coach and you see the performance they made, you don't like the way you lost, but the potential is there. So I wouldn't brand them Final Four ready right now.
Okay.
But if they're sitting in the right spot come the Sweet 16 and the Elite
Yeah.
Eight, they're sitting in the right spot, and people need to be on notice. That was the team I think people need to be on notice about.
Interesting.
Um,
I'm with it. Like I said, I don't really have many points on them. But I'm glad you mentioned that that's the team that you thought people should be on notice of, because my team, I think I said it last episode, but I know I've said it to you personally, is Ohio State. And they surprised me, child, and got
You
upset.
don't think people are on notice about Ohio State?
I feel like it's constructive notice, not actual notice.
Mm.
Um,
Here we go with this legalese,
sorry,
chill.
y'all. Look it up if you don't know what it means. I don't give out free legal advice.
Period.
um yeah, I feel like people have an idea based on like rankings and numbers and their win against Iowa the first time of what Ohio State has to offer. But I don't feel like they've watched Ohio State enough this season to know how good they really are and the strengths
Mm.
that they actually have. In Celeste Taylor being such a defensive weapon, Cody McMahon when she's hidden in the paint, it's nasty. JC Sheldon being an excellent point guard. Not only can she get
Excellent
her own
point
shot,
guard.
her
My
facilitating
God.
and her defensive energy. Like it's just they have so many good pieces. And I feel like
Yeah.
people that's why I said constructive notice. They have an idea, but they don't really know. However, I will say that they are inconsistent a little bit. I thought that they had picked it up and they had went on like a winning streak. So I thought that they had, reached their stride, but this loss to Maryland was very perplexing. Their shot just really wasn't falling. I think it was just an offensive slump, an off day. And plus,
Mm-hmm.
Maryland is not a slouch team.
And
As much
Maryland was
as much as Maryland has had a very, very, very rough year, I feel like we have seen glimpses of Maryland all year and the team that they can be and the talent that they do have. They just make stupid mistakes. They just choose to go away from who's their answer, which is Brene Alexander. And she was on fire in the game against Ohio State. So yeah, I still think that Ohio State is a Final Four contender. I still am not sure that there's 8 teams that are better than Ohio State. I just simply think that Maryland is one of those teams that is more talented than other teams, realize they're easily underestimated. And so they just got caught slipping. So, but I still feel like Ohio State is a very solid team when they're playing their best basketball.
yeah, and if you're gonna get caught slipping now, not in a big
Exactly.
dance, you know. And Maryland has one of those coaches,
One of the best. So,
preaches, you know. The
exactly.
Terps had a rough couple years.
Couple.
Um,
Diamond Miller. He was
correct.
okay. Okay.
Um, I think they're gonna have to just ride it out and recruit, man.
Yeah,
Question is, who wanna go over there?
we've talked about it before, but we'll have a more in-depth episode when we talk about coaching on
Mm-hmm.
that particularly. Anybody else in the Big Ten that we think could make a deep run or should people be on notice of when it comes to tournaments? I feel like Indiana didn't make that much noise as I thought they were going to
I
in the
thought they were
tournament.
gonna do better. Yeah.
Um, so I still feel like they have potential to be a decent tournament team, but I'm just not so sold on them. But other than that, I don't really have anybody else. I feel like in the Big Ten that's just a major lookout for the tournament. I think Michigan State has had a decent year, and then I think that they can be pretty good. But tournament time, I don't see them making any major noise, so they just were good enough.
Yeah, I think the three are the three, and if I had to pick out of Ohio State, Iowa, and Indiana, who I think would go further,
Mm-hmm. Where you go?
I'm going Ohio State. I'm keeping it controversial. Love
That's
Caitlin to death, but I mean, if y'all really let Caitlin cook y'all all the way through like this, have some pride. Like, what's
no
going on? I'm fouling out. Like, I don't. Before
right. I'm
I
not
let
letting you cook
Caitlin
me like
Clark
this.
do a 50 piece on me to get to the final four, I'm fouling her. Like,
Baby, I'm
all
getting
foul.
ejected. What are you talking about?
Technicals, everything on. I'm leaving everything on the floor. Okay, that italic gonna turn
100%.
her bowl real fast, and
Screaming.
I just don't have it in me to go through that. Like, I can't do it.
Yeah, I feel like that is the narrative that the media wants to happen. Of course, I mean, Caitlin Clark is on ESPN Sports Center every damn day, and so for her to be the leading scorer, finish it off, they know she's going to the W. with a natty, that just will put the icing on the damn cake for them. So
That's a Disney movie, on God.
I don't think it's gonna happen. But
30
hey,
for 30, on God.
you never know.
You just never know. It's that time of year, kids.
It's that time of year, and so there are, still the Big 12, Big East. Their conference tournaments are still going on at the time that we're recording this. So we'll have to discuss those in another episode. There won't be much to discuss, shall.
Hi,
Um,
UConn.
UConn, Texas, definitely
Goodbye. That's it.
ain't yeah, ain't too much to say. But yeah, so we have done a good tournament recap. We let you guys know how the conference tournaments have affected certain teams, what we feel like the tournaments exposed about certain teams, question marks that it posed. And so that's our recap on the 2024 conference tournaments. And this is the Nasty Work Podcast. I am Nia Senior, my amazing co host, as always, Coach Slop. And we'll see you on the next episode. Toodles.
Peace.